Hey guys, it's DestinyLashae. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, make sure you subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss a video. And to my subscribers that always watch my videos, thank you guys so much for coming back and supporting me. I really appreciate it. So today I'm going to be telling you a story about how my psycho neighbor back in the day tried to stab my friends and I because I'll just get into that later. She just tried to stab us. This lady was psycho. I'm telling this story because I feel like you guys don't really know me like that. And for me to start telling stories on my channel, I feel like it's a way for you guys to get to know me and kind of get to know what happened to me when I was younger and how I grew up and all that stuff. Like, so we could get to know each other, you know? So I grew up in apartment buildings until I was about 8 years old. I lived with my family, my mom, my dad, and my brother. And I grew up in a income-based housing development. Now, I didn't know I lived in income-based housing when I was younger because I never felt as though we were poor or middle class, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what we technically were, but we didn't have that much money. So eventually my parents wanted to move out of that apartment building, of course, and buy their own home. I feel like at a certain point, everyone gets crowded in, especially to we had like a 3-bedroom apartment, but it was still very crowded. Like, it wasn't that much space. So my parents decided to build a home. Now, when I was younger, I didn't feel like black people could build homes. I don't know why. I felt like I was ignorant. I'm not gonna lie, but I was young. I was a kid. So I remember coming to the street where we lived and looking at how they were building the foundations to the homes, and some of the homes on the street were already built. I was just looking at the people that own the houses and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, all these people are black. This is amazing. Like, I didn't think this was even a thing. Like, comes to find out, the entire street was owned by black homeowners that built the houses from the ground up. That was a proud moment for me, especially when I was little. I don't know. I just felt like black people couldn't do it for some reason because, I don't know. I don't know. To me now, of course, that sounds very silly, but as a kid, I was really impressed. So yeah, I remember coming to look at the house and seeing how it was built and everything. And I remember going specifically with my parents to pick out lighting fixtures. We had to pick out the tile to the kitchen floor, to the bathroom floor, picking out tubs, toilets, even like the light switches. Like, it was ridiculous. Building a house is a lot of work. I was little and I didn't really know what was going on, but I kind of knew what was going on at the same time. It's a lot of work. So eventually the house was built. I think it took about a year and a half or so. And moving in was fun. I mean, I just remember being really excited, me and my brother, that we would have our own backyard that we could play in, and we would have our own space. Like, we could have a pool if we wanted to, we could get a trampoline, like we could do whatever we wanted because we didn't have to share our space with other kids that lived in the apartment buildings. You know what I mean? So we were really excited about that. I was really excited to get my own new room. I mean, I had my own room in our apartment building, but I didn't have a room that I could paint, that I could do anything with because it was an apartment building, you know? So I was really excited. Me and my brother were really excited. My parents were excited. Like, we moved in. We built a home from the ground and we moved in. Really exciting, right? So after we got settled, probably, I can't even give you a real timeline, but I know I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. At this point, my brother and I had made friends on the street, and we would always play outside, especially in the summertime. So we would have a good time. We would have water fights. We would eat juleps. If you don't know what a julep is, who are you? A julep is basically, because people ask me all the time, like, what is a julep? It's a popsicle, basically. This lady down the street used to make them all the time and sell them to us for like 25 cents, and she would put gummy worms on the bottom of them. And they're basically juice in a cup that's frozen with something on the bottom. Like, we call those juleps. Really nice in the summertime, cools you off, and they're good. I just remember always being outside. We would have water fights. We would play curveball. Some of us would play like double dutch. I didn't really know how to double dutch like that, but whatever. We will always play basketball. I have scars on my legs to this day from being outside playing with all the kids on the street. Like, I was always outside. Okay, so we had 2 neighbors that lived on either side of us. Honestly, both of these people were a little bit psycho. I'm not gonna lie. One was more psycho than the other, but they were both a little not all together. So one day I remember us playing outside, and we're gonna call this lady Psycho Lady A, okay? So this is the first lady I'm gonna tell you guys about. Psycho Lady A, sorry. Psycho Lady A, hold on, my dad just called me. Let me call my dad really quick. Hold on. Psycho Lady A would often be outside. She lived by herself. She had children, but they were grown. They would come by and see her every now and then. But she was always on her porch. She was, we're going to call her the peeping Tamisha. Like, she was always looking out of her window, kind of being nosy, like making sure everything was okay on the street. She would always be staring at us. Like, we would notice she was always peeping out her window when we were playing outside. And she was just really like, she gave me creepy vibes a little bit, you know? So one day, I want to say it was curveball. We were playing curveball, and I think someone, I don't know who it was, one of our friends threw the ball and it landed in her front yard. In the front yard, there were no fences. So it was really easy for like a ball or something to go in her yard, and anyone's yard at that point. Like, we're kids, we're playing outside. So the ball landed in her yard, and I remember one of us going to get it. I don't know exactly who it was. I know it wasn't me because I would have told my mom. But one of us went in her yard, and I believe it could have been my brother. It was somebody. When whoever it was, one of our friends, went to go get the ball out of her yard, this lady came outside and literally said to us, "If you don't get off of my grass, I'm going to shoot you." What? Like, what? At that point in time, we were like, oh, ha ha ha, that lady's crazy. Like, she's not gonna shoot us. She's just nuts. She's the peeping Tamisha. Like, we didn't call her that, but I just made that name up. She's just as crazy. Like, we're like, okay, she's crazy. She would even get mad at us sometimes if we walked too close to her grass. What? Like, she would really get mad at us because we would walk too close to her grass. There's a sidewalk, and then there's your yard. You would get mad at us for walking too close to your grass? Like, sis. Okay. So, mind you, we are kids. We're all under the age of, I think, 12 or 13. 12. 13. This lady would just get mad about anything in regards to her yard. She just would get mad. And I know some people are really, really picky when it comes down to their yard and their gardening and stuff. Like, her yard wasn't even all that, like, for you to be tripping like that. So I remember one day specifically, we decided to play basketball in the backyard of our houses. So at that time, not everyone had their fences up for their backyards. So at that time, I specifically remember we did not have our fence put up for our backyard. A lot of people didn't. Only a couple people on the street did. And Psycho Lady A had her fence put up in her backyard already, because she was one of the first people to build on the street. So she had a little bit more time to get everything together. So in the backyard of these houses, right, there were our backyards, and then there was a parking lot. So we would often play in the parking lot because no one would be there. So we would play basketball there very often. Like I said, we were always outside. So we were outside playing basketball. It's probably like 6 or 7 of us. I had best friends that lived across the street from me, and they would often be outside with us too. I specifically remember them being there, and a couple of other people from the street. And we were just playing, being kids. I remember specifically my brother, we were playing, having fun, having a good old time. I remember it being really hot outside, and he overthrew the basketball over the court, and it went into her backyard. Now, thinking back on this, I don't know why we did this as kids. We had the basketball hoop almost directly in her backyard by her fence. Like, it was really close because, mind you, our houses were right next to each other. I don't know why we didn't go a little bit further down, because we knew this lady was a little bit psycho. Like, I don't know. As kids, you don't really think all the time. Like, you don't think. So, not thinking anything of it really, he threw the basketball over the fence. So we all really look at each other and we're like, oh, this lady is, we know she's a little bit wacky. Like, she threatened to shoot us. As kids, we're like, oh, okay, that she was just playing. Like, she was just playing. Like, we can easily go get this basketball and come back and mind our business and play. Like, she won't even notice. She's probably asleep or something. So my brother goes over. He walks over. I almost fell. So my brother moseys over to her yard, climbs her fence, And I remember specifically when he was climbing the fence, I was like praying. I was like, God, please do not let this lady peep out of her window and see my brother climbing her fence, because she's gonna flip. Like, I was low-key freaking out, but not really freaking out. Like, I was just making sure, I was just praying to make sure that he wouldn't get caught. Like, even if my mom saw him climbing her fence, he would get in trouble. So I was just like, Lord, please don't let this lady look out her window. So I remember when he got back there, and all I seen was Peepin' Tamisha, Psycho Lady A, look out the back door of her window, or the back door of her, whatever, the back door. And she seen my brother in her yard. And when I tell you that lady looked so evil, that lady was evil, okay? The look she gave him, she was so pissed off. She was so mad. Looking back on it, my brother we should have told our parents, and then they could have handled it from there. But I mean, we were kids. There's a piece of hair on my face. Okay, there it is. He went to go get the ball. This lady looked out her window. I could tell she was pissed, and I was like, Fonzo, like, we were yelling at him like, yo, this lady is about to come outside. Like, she sees you. Like, hurry up. So he hurries up. He grabs the ball, climbs the fence really fast, jumps over it. And by the time we knew it, this lady had ran around her house through our backyard and was literally trying to stab my brother. Like, literally, she was chasing us. At one point, she was just going for my brother, but after a while, we were screaming and stuff. Like, we were running too. Like, everyone was just, it was just a panic because she was chasing us. Not only was this lady chasing us, she had a chef-sized butcher knife in her hand while she was chasing 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Tell me how that's okay. Like, tell me how that added up. Looking back on it, she was crazy. Like, she needed mental help. Like, now knowing how things work in the world, she definitely should have sought help, or her family should have got her help or something. Like, this lady was really, really, really psycho. Like, really psycho. She had real mental issues. She was chasing us with a knife, and I specifically remember my two friends' mom that lived across the street from us came outside first. And I remember her tussling with the lady. And I remember Psycho Lady A having the knife over my friend's mom, and my friend's mom was on the floor, on the ground outside in our backyard. And I remember my mom coming outside while the lady was tussling with my friend's mom on the ground with the knife, trying to stab her in the eyeball. My mom comes outside with a broom. I don't know why my mom came outside with a broom, y'all. Like, the fact that my mom did not grab a knife and she grabbed a broom says a lot about my mom. Like, it proves that her character, like, she didn't want to kill this lady. She just wanted to hurt her a little bit. She didn't want to kill her. She just wanted to hurt her. At this point, I don't think my mom knew exactly what was going on. I think she just thought that my friend's mom was being attacked by the psycho lady. Like, I think that's all she knew. I don't think she knew at this point that the psycho lady had tried to attack us with a knife. So my mom grabbed a broom. I remember her specifically beating Psycho Lady A in the back with a broom, like, continuously, like, boom, 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 like, trying to get her off of my friend's mom that she was hovering over, that Psycho Lady A was hovering over with a chef-sized butcher knife. Like, it had to be like this big. So my mom is beating this lady in the back with a broom, and my grandparents were up here from Florida at the time. And I specifically remember my granddad just moseying on over really calmly, and as my mom was beating her in the back, us children are in the parking lot right by our yard, screaming, crying, wilding out. Like, we are tripping because we're thinking at this point somebody's gonna die. Like, somebody is about to get extremely hurt. Like, our friend's mom is gonna die. My mom is in trouble because she's beating this lady in the back and she's trying to fight her. Like, we're just thinking somebody is going to die. So we're screaming, crying, rolling on the ground. Like, we're going crazy. So this is funny looking back on it now, but yo, we were scared. So my granddad, like I said, he just moseyed on over as they were tussling, and she must have stood up and was trying to kind of like get a grip of herself, and my granddad took the knife from behind her hand and just kind of slipped it out of her hand. Like, I specifically remember that in my head. Like, he just went bloop. So after that, I remember at this point somebody in the neighborhood had called the police, and it was kind of a blur from there. She ended up in a cop car, and I remember her specifically being in the back of a cop car, and my dad had just came because he wasn't there when the incident happened, and he was trying to get at this lady. Like, he was like, yo, you tried to stab my wife. Like, my dad was so mad. He was trying to get her. Like, he was trying to get at her. Mind you, this lady was probably about 50 or 60 years old. So she wasn't like young, but she was acting like she was a young, like she was about that life. So my dad was trying to get at her. This was after everything happened. We're still shaking up. Like, we're still shaking up. I remember my friend's mom, that psycho lady A, tried to stab on the ground. She had to go to the hospital. I remember the ambulance coming to get her. My mom was fine. Thank God. Okay. My mom was okay. She was just beating that lady. All I remember is my mom beating that lady in the back with a broom. Like, yo, a broom. A broom. We still talk about that to this day. A broom. As far as I can remember, I don't think anyone pressed charges on her. If so, they got dropped. Like, nothing really happened with that case. I don't really remember that. Mind you, I was really young, so I didn't know anything about stuff like that. Yeah, I remember her just coming back to the house like nothing happened, going back into her house, living her life. After that, I don't really remember her bothering us like that. She was really low-key. She was still a peeping Tomisha, but she wasn't like bothering us like she used to before, because I think she kind of figured that like somebody else would kill her, like my dad would get at her before she could do it again. So I don't think she would do that anymore. So she was cool after that. She wasn't cool, but we just didn't really see her like that. Okay, fast forwarding to probably about 4 years after that. 4 or 5 years after that, if not longer. I remember being in the house and just looking outside. I guess I was kind of a peeping Tomisha too after this point, because she was a little bit psycho and I didn't want this lady to do nothing crazy. So I was looking out the window and I seen there was a medical examiner's truck outside in her yard. And I was just like, that's interesting. She's the only one that lives there, so what's going on? I remember telling my mom to come downstairs, and I'm like, yo, it's a medical examiner's truck in this lady's yard. So we go outside, we're being nosy, and we kind of peep around to see what's going on in her yard. And as soon as we get on the porch, we're like, yo, is that the lady? Like, is that her? They're pulling her out on a gurney with a white sheet over her whole body. First of all, we didn't even know it was her. We did not even know who it was. We're like, did this lady kill somebody? Did she stab somebody? Like, did she shoot somebody? Because she's always threatening to do something to somebody. So I remember my mom was like, yo, Lord, please show us if this is that lady. If this is that psycho lady, please show us that it's her. Kid you not. Like 2 seconds after my mom said that, the wind blew and that white sheet blew off that lady's face. And we were like, yo, that's really her. Like, yo, that's really her. So, like, to this day, I'm still thinking, like, who called the medical examiners, or if they did, like, a wellness check on her because she wasn't answering the phone or something. I remember her kids coming to see her, but they would argue, and they wouldn't come visit very often. But when they did come visit, they would argue so loud to where the whole, like, at least the 2 direct neighbors would come outside and be like, yo, what's good? Like, what's up? Because they were always arguing. And it was kind of sad. Like, my mom started singing, like, she was kind of happy. That's really bad, but she was happy, but because we didn't have to deal with her psychoness anymore. That lady died in her house alone, as far as we know. Her kids weren't even there to see her out of that house. Like, yo, that's extremely sad. And I know that lady had real mental issues. It's just really sad thinking about it now, how crazy that lady was. And I wish she would have got help, because it didn't even, all of this didn't even have to happen. Like, it was just a really sad situation. And as kids, that was a little traumatizing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I would always think about that. I wouldn't have like dreams or anything. It wasn't extremely like extreme trauma or anything, but it was kind of scary. Like, I would always look outside, like we would always be looking for her and just making sure she wasn't coming at us. Like, she was psycho. She died, and we were kind of relieved. I'm not gonna lie, we were relieved because we didn't have to deal with her anymore. And that's really sad, but we were scared. Like, that was scary. So yeah, that's the story about her, the Psycho Lady A. And honestly, she left demons in that house. I can tell you guys more stories about the house in general, because 2 or 3 more incidents happened in that house after she died that led us to believe that that house, like, she left that house haunted for sure. If you guys do want to know the rest of the story, leave me a comment down below and I will definitely tell you guys. Let me know if you've had to deal with any psycho neighbors. So I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Thumbs up, subscribe. Love you. Deuces.